So we really set out to try to understand how we could get better data on two different genetic lines of oysters, how they grow and survive in different conditions, and how that relates to the bacteria that live in them that are commensal, perhaps beneficial, but we wanted to find out more about that. Because it's sort of in this early stage, the aquaculture industry has been growing and doing really well, but there's information gaps. So farmers have an idea of which lines work well in certain places. The genetic lines of oysters are also bred for certain salinities and disease tolerance. So sometimes just the breeding process tells you which genetic lines are best suited for which farms. However, aside from this general sense of these oysters do well here and less well in the higher salinities, we don't have really precise idea of why there are die-offs at farms or why there are episodes where oysters don't grow as well as they should. So our motivation for this project was to really get that, bring together the science with the practice and see if we can get much higher detail on survival and growth and how we can link that to the environment.
The point of the project is also for citizen science, so that's engaging the community, people that are less familiar with science, getting to know science better. So they know, like I said, the big point of the project is for humans to decrease CO2 in the air and such. But if you're not into science, then you don't really know that you could be causing an issue. So that's another big thing. It's just the community involvement and community engagement and knowing that even if they're not into science, they can also help decrease this issue.
So this project is great because it's ultimately working towards this effort of getting more oysters in the bay. And oyster farming is one key element of the oysters in the bay overall. Of course, we have restored oyster reefs, which include sanctuaries, and then the wild harvested grounds. And if the idea among various stakeholders is that if we can increase the number of oysters in each of those three bins, then that's how we'll get to our final goal. It's important because oysters perform such an important ecological role. So they build oyster reefs, which most people know them for. They also contribute to filtering water and improving water clarity. That helps some bay organisms, and it also helps people enjoy the bay better. Oysters are also important because they contribute to nutrient cycling in the bay, which one of the biggest issues in Chesapeake Bay is the nutrient problem. So hopefully oysters can help remediate that in some way. The primary beneficiaries of the research in our minds are the oyster farmers. That doesn't mean that other people won't also benefit. The reason is because we're trying to advance knowledge that can directly help farmers make decisions about which lease they want to put oysters at, which genetic lines they want to choose, or to even understand what risk some sort of weather event or heat wave poses to their oysters. We have 4 sites in Maryland. They're all in the Chester River, and they are spanning different parts of that tributary to represent different environmental conditions. Our other 4 sites are in Virginia, and they cover a couple different rivers somewhat in proximity to VIMS, where our other co-PI is located. So some of the sites have oysters that are have higher survival, better growth. Those are our 2 key metrics of performance. And having that variability means that we can then connect differences in performance to certain environmental conditions. So we can actually ask questions, are the oysters that are performing better in certain types of environments? And then because we have this other microbiome element, we can see if the oysters that are performing better have certain microbial or bacterial associates. Ultimately, the next level of success is that translates to higher success for oysters at farms, and to tell people what we're doing and really try to drive home, this is the project with these aquaculture goals in mind, and even though it does have this primary focus on oyster farms, the overall goals are meant to benefit the whole Chesapeake Bay community.